I think she thinks it's a finished project. Like she's like, yeah, no, feminism was great when it did the thing, and now it's making it worse. It's time to let feminism go, you guys. You guys, feminism is in a lot of pain, so we're gonna send feminism to a farm upstate. Like,
Oh, so that he can spend more time outside running around.
yeah,
Oh, that's really nice.
Send it to Canada to have a conversation.
Do I need to get rid of all my "This is what a male feminist looks like" t-shirts?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Global Politics Podcast at the end of history, now bereft of our evil patron saint. But we carry on nevertheless. This is BungaCast. Hello. So on episode 342, which you may have heard, we talked about family abolition, the history of the idea, what family abolitionism looks like today, and whether it represents an embrace by the left of the atomizing trends present in capitalism today. We did all this through the lens of one of its better known proponents, I guess, Sophie Lewis, and her work. So today what we wanted to do is look in the diametric opposite direction, I suppose, at least within kind of the broad tent that is feminism. And that is looking at a book called Feminism versus Progress by Mary Harrington, who's a contributor to the British magazine Unheard. And in the book, she aims to trace the logic of care's defeat by freedom. So she comes out on the side of care as against freedom or autonomy. Harrington is also the author of the Reactionary Feminist Substack. And maybe that tells you already a little bit of what the book is about. So we're going to come to the meat of Harrington's idea in just a second, but we wanted to cover her book as it arguably represents something of a turn against the most progressive or liberal versions of feminism today. So it's a real counterpoint to Lewis's analysis. I think it's probably difficult to imagine Mary Wollstonecraft seeing much reactionary in the vindication of the rights of women, or Simone de Beauvoir signing up to a reactionary feminism Substack. But for Harrington, it's time to ask whether the technological progress from the pill onwards and progressive hyper-individualism that we've seen particularly present in the last 30 years or so, hasn't in fact led to women's emancipation, but it's actually worsened conditions for the fairer sex. So anyway, I'm Alex Hochul in São Paulo, Brazil, as you already know. I'm here as usual with George Hoare and Philip Cunliffe. And joining us again, I'm delighted to have her back to continue this discussion on, on contemporary feminism, Amber Lee Frost. Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hi there. Thank you for having me, and my deepest condolences for your loss.
We're
Thank
grieving,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
had sort of pre-grieved because I knew that he was going to die, but it was still came as a shock, particularly waking up at like early on Monday morning and then my phone being flooded with messages like, dude, he's actually died now.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on it except from you guys. We're stateside, not making note of the passing of a great man, and that's why our
Yeah.
empire is in decline.
Right.
And he
Well, we
gave,
can all-
he
yeah.
gave so much as well to America,
did.
Gave you the model for your own great
did.
your own great man.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, it's a mutual exchange because, of course, he brought America to Italy in many ways, through the kind of TV programming and style of politics and TV and all the rest of it. So, it's
He
a
brought
kind
a
of a
lot of
mutual,
places to
rich
Italy.
exchange. Yeah.
He brought a lot of places to Italy. All those collapsing Balkan communist countries that were hemorrhaging people and, had very
Also,
attractive women. Like, yeah, dude was a real internationalist.
He was, yeah, he had.
I would
Yeah,
have
he
sent
was
him to
man
bust
of
like a
many
human
flavors.
trafficker and be like, he's an internationalist. It's an international exchange.
Sex workers internationalism.
I mean, there is that argument. It's about fungible borders and penetration of borders. Get it? They love that one. They think they're
Putting the fun
so
in
smart for
fungible,
that one. Yeah.
But we have to keep going though. It's what he would have wanted us to keep podcasting. That's what we could. That's what everyone says after something like this happens. No, I've got my armband on out of just recognition of the great man. But we'll continue to do his work, spread his message as much as possible.
Indeed. So let's get cracking. So I mean, Harrington starts, with a rejection of progress, which I guess is kind of arresting to read that. But I guess I have my doubts about I don't know how serious she is about it. So we're going to get into that. So she traces actually her own movement from a kind of hyper liberal way of life. So, kind of non-monogamous, living in a kind of commune of sorts, gender fluidity, etc., to then having a child, becoming a mother, and then going, wait, all this progress theology, as she calls it, is nonsense. I don't believe in that anymore. So I guess let's start off with this progress theology idea. What did we make of it? Is she right in critiquing it as a kind of whole collection of ideas today? And by consequence, if you reject progress theology, are you a reactionary? Does that make you a reactionary?
You got to step one back, Alex. Does becoming a parent make you a reactionary?
Well,
That's a much more
that's a good
basic,
point. Yeah,
a much more basic question. And I think probably, at least from some kind of advantages and hyperliberalism, I think it probably does. Just the assumption. The assumption probably is that it does make you more conservative. I think it's probably borne out, traditionally. I think in terms of electoral voting, at least up until housing has become unaffordable. But as for the period between the Second World War and the period when housing was actually affordable, I think you can probably track how people who have kids become more conservative in their voting patterns.
yeah. I don't know
There's
about
something
voting
in that,
patterns, but
yeah, I mean, we're not talking about.
I'm not. I think that
Yeah.
is the pattern. I might be wrong, but I think you can actually see that. So it's
But
just a factual claim.
Yeah, but I don't think it's about like becoming more conservative and all that. It's like she is really setting her stall out against progress theology, this hyper liberal idea that everything is progress, that everything, and she says it goes beyond the kind of empirical claim that this or that is better than it used to be. It's every, that liberal idea in the 19th century, the river of history only flows in one direction. Well, now it's I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. It's gushing forward, the river of progress. That's not perhaps quite right. Maybe what I'm trying to say. But she's basically saying, like, she's taking a stance against, I think, what is a real feature of hyperliberalism today, which is that everything is seen as a movement forward just because it's more recent, and
But
so
nobody,
the trends are more developed, therefore they're more progress.
the reason I have difficulty with it is because none of its partisans actually believe in progress.
yeah.
I mean, that's the tricky part, right? So, I mean, in the 19th century, liberals did actually believe in progress. But if you ask the people that she's attacking, if you think things, like all of these new things are evidence of the tremendous strides forwards that we're making, that humanity is making, they'd say, well, no, what is humanity? Humanity's like white, male, cishet, whatever. Humanity is like, destroying Mother Earth or what. I mean, so it's hard to square with the fact that the people that she sees as her enemies don't actually believe in progress.
I was drawing a lot of comparisons between her and the people she criticized, and I think she's a really astute critic of a lot of this stuff. Like, I have to say, 2/3 of this book was a banger, and then of course she did weird thing where she's like, and therefore, marry Carpenter and go homestead. It's like, well, weird turn, but
You've got to do it. You've got to do it in an English accent, Amber, though.
and maybe it makes more sense then. I do remember, like, when getting to that part, just as an aside, and being like, yeah, bitch, I'd love to. I am a podcaster. Like, what world are you talking about? Yeah, show me that Carpenter. Show me, where are those? Just kidding. My boyfriend is a very nice artist / writer. But she is equally pessimistic about or the people she is criticizing aren't equally pessimistic about quote unquote progress. They also sort of have the same prescription. She calls them, sort of like bio-libertarian or whatever, but it's pretty libertarian to say, like, it's pretty bio-libertarian. You could say that having a compound with a polygamy compound and with a natalist agenda, that's pretty libertarian too, like that they are sort of doing the same thing that the left does, where they're taking a general trend of like social degradation and the erosion of like power and collective power, and kind of telling themselves, and then making do with it, and then kind of telling themselves that's what they wanted all along.
Well, hello, listener. I hope you like what you're hearing. It's a short excerpt from an episode that's available only to subscribers. Want to support BungaCast and get at least 2 original episodes a month? Sign up at patreon.com/BungaCast right now. $5 a month patrons get access to exclusive episodes like our in-depth analyses of present history. The big stuff that's happening right now. As well as chats with our regular guests, extended interviews with the key thinkers trying to understand our world today, and much more. For $10 a month, you join the BungaCast Reading Club, the place for those of us who are serious about equipping ourselves with the necessary intellectual tools for understanding the world and seeking to change it. Phil, George, and myself, Alex, look forward to seeing you there. Patreon.com/BungaCast.